Welcome to Case File Number 1, the series where we go back through one of the most painful relationships of my life, and together we uncover every clue I missed. Your job is simple. See if you can spot the red flags before I finally did, because if you can learn to see them in my story, you'll start recognizing them in your own. Hello and welcome to the final chapter of Case File Number 1. If you are watching this, I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you for going along this journey with me, and I certainly hope that it has touched you in a way to know that our darkest days don't determine the end of our stories. And after everything I've shared with you about this relationship, the escape, the aftermath, there's one part of the story that I think is even more important, and that is the healing. Because when you're in the middle of something excruciatingly painful, you don't know when you start healing oftentimes. You don't even know what's changing inside of you as a result of that experience, and you don't know what it's preparing you for. I didn't. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other, literally sometimes taking it second by second, moment by moment, day by day. And then one day, eventually you look up and you realize you're not in the same place that you were before. For me, it was realizing I became someone completely different than who I was before this experience ever happened. And in a good way, surprisingly. And that's what I want to talk about in this final episode of Case File Number 1. The things that were born out of one of the most traumatic and painful experiences in my life. Again, as a means of encouraging you and anyone else that's watching, that there is something purposeful for the things that you go through, even the things that are unexpected, even the things that you're thinking to yourself, what the hell? There's a reason. There's something tremendous that comes with it that sometimes we often just aren't aware of. The timeline for me was 2015 through 2017. After I left that relationship and escaped to the other part of the globe, one of the first places I began to process everything that was happening was through creativity. The last episode I shared how I plugged myself into photography, but that wasn't just it. I also wrote some of the most incredible music during that time. I started dreaming songs that would later end up on an album that I released 2 years after that. For me, it was my greatest and best musical work and project to date, honestly. And even the title of that album tells you where I was and what I was experiencing. And it's just indicative of how much we can take something that was meant to break us or destroy us and turn it into art. But the healing wasn't only emotional or creative, it was spiritual. That relationship opened up a spiritual awakening for me I didn't even realize not only was possible, but that I was having as the experience was happening. I began experiencing God in so many expansive ways beyond what I had been taught to believe from my religious upbringing. I started encountering synchronicities and angel numbers and oracle messages, and I started learning how to read tarot. And what I discovered was all of these things were tools that had been placed into my life to help me develop something incredibly important, and that was discernment. Learning to listen to and honor my intuition, learning to see and recognize patterns, learning to sit with information before making decisions. Those things changed the way that I moved through life with greater clarity, greater knowledge, and greater wisdom. And eventually, something that helped me along in my healing journey would become something that I would help other women along in theirs. And then in 2019, another part of my journey unfolded. I got married, y'all. I had spent years learning about relationships and more so the failure of them. But seriously, learning about myself, learning about men, again, learning to trust my discernment, learning what my worth and value were, which has been an ever-going journey, honestly. And eventually I experienced what it felt like to build and develop a completely different kind of relationship. But there's one part of this story that still kind of amazes me. One of the songs that would go on to win me the John Lennon Songwriting Contest Award for the second time in my life was actually written about 10 years before I ever released it. The name of that song was titled "The Sun Still Burns," and I wrote it shortly after I escaped that relationship and got on my cruise ship in Europe. However, I didn't release that song in 2015. I didn't even release it in 2017 on my album Therapy. I finally released it in 2024 for the purpose of the John Lennon Songwriting Awards. And it's funny because when I wrote that song, something in me said, this is gonna help me get through this experience, and this is gonna pay me dividends somehow in the future. And I didn't know how, and I didn't know when. And the premise was, as dark as my life was, I had to know the truth that the sun was still shining, whether I could see it from my perspective or my angle or not. That's nature. If it's nighttime wherever you are right now, the sun is still shining. It never ceases to shine. And it just helped me to hold on to my faith, to know that even though it's dark right now, the sun has to shine again at some point. And the same is true for you and anybody else. The me who wrote that song, who was literally fighting for my life and just trying to survive one day at a time, had no idea that a decade later, that song would help me create an entirely brand new life. As a result of winning the John Lennon Songwriting Contest, my husband and I, we were able to finance relocating out of the country and moving to Central America, where I am now. And somewhere along my journey, I realized that this experience and everything that I have been living out, it just changed the course and the trajectory of the work that I was meant or felt called to do. I became fascinated with the psychology of relationships, who we are, why we choose who we choose, why we ignore what we know, why we repeat patterns, and why sometimes the things we're calling chemistry are entirely something different. And I eventually became a relationship coach. The very things I had learned and experienced became what I would teach and help other women with. I learned how to turn tragedy into tangible transformation. And there is one final piece of my healing that I want to share with you. For a long time, I've kept my spiritual practices outside of the scope of my public work. But I've reached a place where I don't feel the need to hide any aspects of myself, especially when they're meant to help and heal other people. I offer intuitive spiritual guidance and reading sessions for people who are looking for clarity and insight and support around relationships, decisions, transitions, and life in general. And no, this is not a new direction that I've suddenly decided to take. It's been a part of my life and spiritual journey and work that I've done for years, probably almost a decade, just behind the scenes with personal private clients. And it's something that has helped me in my journey and so many other women and some men tremendously. I'm simply allowing myself to be more honest and open about the fullness of who I am and the range of what I do and what I offer to the world. If that's something you're interested in exploring with me, I'll leave that information in the description box beneath this video. You can also find more information about my music that I wrote and released during this time and after, if you'd like to plug more into that. The last thing I want to say is, again, if you're watching this and you're going through the most traumatic time of your life, or the dark night of the soul, or you just can't see the light at the end of your tunnel, you might not understand what's happening right now or why it's happening. You may feel like it's unfair. You may not know how things are going to turn out. And you might not honestly be able to see any good that can come from it. I know for me, I couldn't fully see on the other side of what I felt was an insurmountable mountain of darkness. I couldn't see my album. I couldn't see my awards. I couldn't see the money. I couldn't see the marriage. I couldn't see the healing. I couldn't see the work that I would do. I couldn't see any of that. I couldn't see living internationally. I couldn't see the spiritual awakening. I couldn't see my relationship with God going to such a higher and deeper level all at the same time, to come out of the realm of believing and actually knowing. I could hope, but I had no idea. I could only see what was right in front of me. So I kept going, one foot in front of the other, one day at a time, one decision at a time. And eventually I looked up and realized I wasn't in the same place anymore. And it can be the same thing for you too. When I look back over case file number 1, I don't just see the worst relationship that I ever had that I would never wish on anybody. I see someone who walked away. I see a woman who healed. I see a woman who got stronger, wiser, more powerful, more effective, more influential, more purposeful. Someone who created, someone who loved again, and this time for real, and felt it back. A woman who awakened, and a woman who would become someone to help other people find their way too. Because the greatest part of this story isn't what happened to me. It was who I became while healing from it.